Joined on the phone by the head coach of the Wink Wildcats. Coach Brian Gibson joins us. Coach, we certainly appreciate you making a little bit of time in a hectic morning. I'm interested in your instant reaction to what we've seen for your Wildcats.
At first, I was pretty shocked. To be honest, I didn't really anticipate us going Region 2. We were there a couple of years ago when I first got to Wink. It creates some long travel, getting all the way up to Munster, playing those guys halfway. But it's definitely a loaded region. We're pretty excited about that competition. Our district is rather large. Haven't been in a large district in a while. So it's going to make for some interesting matchups down the road.
Coach, you mentioned that you guys, for those who don't know, you guys are way out west, kind of north of Monahans. I look at this and I go, man, that's a lot of travel. But from your perspective, it kind of feels like every game is a lot of travel. Does that impact your team at all, or is it just stay as you go is another bus ride?
For us, it's pretty much just another bus ride. We're very fortunate. Our school district takes good care of us. We travel well, and our kids have adapted well. So, they understand what it means to get on a bus and drive 2 or 3 hours just for we just went to Cristobal Tuesday night for a district basketball game. It's a 3.5 hour drive on Tuesday night, one way. So we're accustomed to it. Our kids have adapted and they know how to travel.
Coach, you're adding 2 6-man newcomers in Water Valley and Sterling City. How, as a coach, do you prepare for that? A team coming up from 6-man to 11-man, and also another, I guess, a follow-up would be: have you had to do that before in 282?
I haven't ever done it before. I've never played teams that have just coming out of 6-man that I can remember. It's going to create some challenges. I know that as a coaching staff, they have their challenges, but for us, trying to get an idea of what their kids are going to be like, how they play, the tendencies from the past, all those things, makes it pretty tough. But, and I know they've got a lot of challenges as far as, getting the field ready and things like that. But we're pretty excited about the competition in our district for sure.
Coach, let me ask you a little bit about going into 2022. This is the program that you guys are going to bring back the Built for Tough Player of the Year in 2A in Cannon Gibson. Last time I saw you was when Cannon was getting that award. The expectations, it sure seem like, have risen there at Wink. Regardless of district, does the message stay the same, or how are you going to address this with your players whenever you get back together with them?
Well, I think the goal still is the same. It doesn't matter, what region you're in. Eventually, you got to go through them all if you want to reach your ultimate goal. And so, being in a loaded region that we are, it does create more challenges throughout the playoffs. Every week you start running into them a lot earlier. But it doesn't change our mindset. Our goal is still the same. Our work ethic has got to still be the same. Our preparation has to be the same. So, I just don't. I think it just kind of throws some scheduling kinks in there that all of us didn't anticipate. I think that's the only really big change you have.
He's Brian Gibson. Coach, I know you've got a lot to do. We certainly appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk with us. Go get back to work, Coach.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, Coach. There goes Brian Gibson, the head coach of the Wink Wildcats. He is
the district coordinator, he said, so he was like, kind of got a bit on my plate
here.
Yeah,
so we certainly
we'll get you in and out quick, Coach.
So we appreciate him taking a little bit of time there, and that's a start. Can we throw that graphic back up of Coach of the Wink district?
Yeah.
We mentioned this in our initial rundown that this is a team that is going from Region 1 to Region 2. They're joining McCamey. That's that Badger right there in the middle of them. They're joining them. They're adding in El Dorado from Region 2. They're coming in as well. They're coming from Region 4, I believe. They were in that kind of Concho Valley Region 4 part of Division 2. And then you're adding in teams like Water Valley and Sterling City who are moving up to the 11-man ranks. Maybe not by choice. They would prefer to be playing 6-man football, but the numbers require them to go up. That is a large swath of travel, but as Coach mentioned, that doesn't really faze them. But it is just a mishmash of teams that when you take a look at the way that things shook out, it makes sense in the map, but it is a bit jarring, I think, when you consider where they're going, where they're coming from to where they're going now. These are programs that they are not only they haven't seen in a while, but some of them they've never seen ever because they've been playing six-man football.
Right, and that was a good point that he mentioned about those staffs having kind of a challenge too, right? Because they got to field a team, they got to figure out kind of their style of what they're going to be playing in 11-man, which is why I was curious about, has that happened to him in D2 before? Because of course it'd be in 2A D2 where if anybody would have experience, it'd be somebody dealing with that kind of issue. And he said no, and it's a good point where it's like, you know, I guess he'll eventually have film on them, right, after they play a couple games. But the challenge right now is for them is like trying to figure out, all right, what are we going to run? You know,
right. Well, and is there an amount of scheme in 6-man that you can turn around and use to your advantage in 11-man that people, as an 11-man program, their defense is something that they haven't seen before like that?
Well, and like for example, Water Valley currently has a coaching opening. They don't have a coach. They don't, at least from what we understand, they don't have a coach right now. Coach Hayes. You know, I believe, you know, Coach Hayes is a longtime 6-man coach, and I think that he looked at this and goes, you know what, I think I want to stay in the 6-man world, which is not rare.
No,
you know,
not at all.
In the same way that you've seen coaches that when they drop from 11-man to 6-man, it goes, you know what, I'm an 11-man coach. So that's another wrinkle to add into this. In this is that, you know, they're going to be dealing with a new coach there at Water Valley, which is a perennial kind of power there in the 6-man ranks. It's big doings. West Texas is always kind of like, because of just the area between places, you're going to get these big hexagons or octagons or whatever you call them. But this is, you know, the UIL, we've mentioned it, they've just got to make everything fit. They're not even, you know, as far as West Texas is concerned, you know, I believe somebody threw this into the comments, but Anthony, which is the farthest west team in the state of Texas, I believe they're in with Christoval in 2A Division 1. That is about a 6-hour drive. You know what I mean? That's a long drive.
Well, and that's the thing. I appreciate the fact that he said that, because I know from growing up in a small town that, yes, we were used to making 2.5-hour drives on a Tuesday night to go play a basketball game, that type of thing. And so the one thing that I do think that coaches that have to make those drives will say, and I think we heard it from some of the El Paso teams, like Coach Lopez out there when they went far, it was one of those things that, you know what, in the long run of things, if you can do well and make it to the playoffs, that does nothing but benefit you, because then when in the random times in the playoffs where you've got to drive 5 hours to meet up with a DFW team, well, guess what? You're used to it at that point.
Right.
Yeah, you're used to doing that. And, you know, some other kind of long drives. Port Neches Groves to Fort Bend Marshall. They are new, and you may think, oh, well, okay, if you're not from down there in that part of the world, you may think, you know, those are two greater Houston, you know, Port Neches Groves not really in Houston, but like, you know, greater areas. That's a 2-hour drive, which by major metro areas is very, like, standards, is very long.
Well, and we talked about that with the RGV too as well. We were like, will they finally team up with the Laredos, or will they finally team up with some Corpus Christi schools or San Antonio? But you look and you think, oh yeah, South Texas, all right there, not a big deal. 2 hours either way, no matter which direction you're going there. So it's interesting to see that.
And you're crossing through. I mean, like when you mentioned the Port Neches Groves, you're crossing through Houston.
Yeah,
like, that's like anytime you're crossing
Death,
through a
taxes,
metroplex,
I-45.
Right, exactly. You're crossing through a metroplex.
I want you to think about, especially with a 7:30 kick, okay, on a Friday night. When are you driving through Houston?
You know what I mean? Time to load the buses at noon.
Exactly right. Like those are the types of things that
you hit at 3 o'clock and you're still backed up in traffic for the next 2 hours.
Well, and Step mentioned it. Step mentioned McKinney North being lumped into District 7-5A Division 1 with Tyler Longview. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But Lufkin? That's a 3.5-hour drive from
McKinney North,
to Lufkin. That is a huge that's huge doings. You know, there's other thing. Andrews to Brownwood. You know, that he mentioned
Brownwood.
That's a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
But the thing about Fort Bend Marshall and that particular one in particular, and McKinney North to a certain extent as well, those are programs that, unlike Wink, are not necessarily used to traveling.
True.
You know, they're not used to those long bus rides. They're not used to that. How do they handle that going forward? That'll be certainly something to keep an eye on. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.